Good evening.
Good evening.
Hello.
First of all, I'm going to apologize ahead of time. My voice is shot this week, so
Yeah, right here.
okay.
Cough drops.
I know it's tough. I've never been accused of being a quiet person, so tonight that will be a new one. So my wife reminded me that the best cure for a problem with your voice is silence. So she's enjoyed 2 nights of quiet at the house. So there we go. First of all, I want to start out and say this is my 8th year presenting the school improvement plan for Mark Twain Elementary. I want to say thank you to my fellow administrators for the work that we do together. I could not do what I do without their support. Also, thank you to our community for the support that we receive. I can't tell you how many times I call upon the community to help us out at Mark Twain, and the support we receive is tremendous. And I also want to say, finally, thank you to the board for your tireless efforts to make sure our school is a positive place for every student. Thank you very much. It's hard to believe, but we are already finished with the first quarter of school. As you can see, this was the very first day of school, Mrs. Cunningham's class. It's hard to believe we're already finished with the first quarter of school and moving right along. As it is every year, it goes by quickly, and we try to get as much done as possible as we go through the year. Mark Twain Elementary is a beautiful school to walk through. If you take time to come through our hallways, you'll see some beautiful examples of student work and the things that we do to support our students and to celebrate the great things that they do. And finally, we haven't forgotten that school is about lifelong friendships and building relationships. Many of us still have the same friends that we had whenever we were in elementary today. And we don't forget that as we build our school and we work with our students to make sure that Mark Twain is a great place for students. If you are a member of Mark Twain Elementary, you are part of the school improvement plan. Everyone has a part of it. Our school improvement plan is built on shared responsibility. We use a team approach to try to find ways to make our school a better place. We talk about this every year. We want to maintain the positives we have in place. We want to focus on the areas in need of growth. We monitor the progress of change as we make changes, and we support the district school improvement plan goals as we make our way through the year. Our school, every teacher in our school belongs to one of the 4 teams listed below. Our school has 4 teams: the student assistance team, the positive behavior support team, the response to intervention team, and the building leadership team. Each one of these teams has responsibilities and goals they set throughout the year in order to support the needs of our students. And I'd like to go into a little bit of that tonight, just to kind of explain how school improvement is cyclical in our building. It doesn't stop when we receive scores. It keeps going throughout the year. The first team I'd like to talk about is our student assistance team. Members of this team meet more than any other team in our building. They sit in a roundtable discussion, and this team serves as a place of support for both students and the teachers in our building who need assistance with students. The facilitator for this team is Jessica Titty. Jessica is a kindergarten teacher, recently moved to kindergarten from 2nd grade, and she's doing wonderful work with this team. The student assistance team is responsible for developing appropriate interventions and solutions for students experiencing learning difficulties in the school environment, using a model incorporating multiple stakeholders, as it says. They work on promoting a healthy and positive and supporting environment for students. They provide resources for teachers because sometimes, hey, we need someone that can help us that's had that problem with a student or is looking they look for ways to support one another. They align resources to increase academic achievement and reduce behavior incidents as well. There are times when we just need help as an educator, and this is the place where you can go. And they provide opportunities for students in need of social and emotional support. Sometimes, beyond the scope of what we do in the classroom, a student needs our help. This is where this team recommends to families outside agencies that might help them, or just an opportunity for the student to be a part of something bigger than the classroom. And finally, they provide interventions for attendance, academic, and behavior and health needs of our students. Our positive behavior support team our facilitator is Ms. Tess Green. Tess is a kindergarten teacher in our building. This team helps build a positive culture for students in our building. The Positive Behavior Support Team is responsible for promoting positive behaviors and promoting a healthy, positive, and supportive learning environment for students. They promote attendance and positive behavior through incentives. One of them is next week. The staff at Mark Twain claims that I get sick every time during this time of year, because we do a water incentive where we'll do anything from a dunking booth to a fun flush. And here I am sick this week, so I'm catching a little bit of grief, as you can imagine. They also provide students with example of everyday heroes. This year, our PBS theme is Everyday Heroes. So throughout the year, they're bringing in individuals that we believe are everyday heroes. A hero isn't necessarily someone you see in a comic book or on television. We believe people like our police officers, our veterans and different things, or different individuals from our community are our heroes. We want students to understand that that is part of being a positive person in your community as well. They also collect, analyze, and disseminate data related to behaviors. So they're always looking at ways to try to reduce negative behaviors and increase the number of positive behaviors. They develop and promote universals related to behaviors. For example, if you come into Mark Twain and we say, attention here, our students know that that means that they need to be quiet and listen for the next direction from the adult. So they develop those and make sure that every student understands their responsibility with regard to that. They develop strategies and modify procedures to reduce negative behaviors. A great example of this was when we went from being a kindergarten through fourth grade building. This team understood the importance of reducing the number of students in the cafeteria. They helped our building leadership team develop a schedule that would allow us to only have one grade level in the cafeteria at a time. Behaviors in the cafeteria, negative behaviors, have reduced significantly, and we still to this day have that schedule in place. And then finally, they identify resources for teachers and staff to help promote a positive culture. The response intervention team is led by Angie Ferrioli. Angie is a Title I teacher in our building. This team pours over the data in our building, and they work together to try to find ways to help students that are falling behind. The response to intervention team is responsible for providing interventions in reading and math to help every child demonstrate growth at his or her level. They collect assessment data from our individual students and groups as well, and have conversations to track the growth about the English language arts and math, both. They analyze assessment data from ESGI to help our kindergarten teachers track growth in both math and English language arts. They collect the STAR, which is our reading assessment that we give to every student. They collect the STAR data from grades 1, 2, and 3 to monitor reading growth, so we can look for trends in that as well. They also analyze the NWEA data to track the student growth in ELA, English Language Arts, and math in our second and third grade students. And finally, this group analyzes the MAP data, Missouri Assessment Program data, that we look over to determine trends. Our goal is to find, they look over the data to determine trends with an emphasis on developing strategies necessary to reduce areas of weakness. So for example, if we're having third graders that are dealing with addition or subtraction issues, that's not a third grade issue. That starts all the way back in kindergarten and first grade. We need to figure out what we're doing in order to help those students. And then finally, the building leadership team. This team works on the nuts and bolts of our school. I'm the facilitator for this team. The Mark Twain Elementary Building Leadership Team is responsible. We work to collaborate with each of our PLC teams. So we work with every one of those teams to ensure building-wide objectives are met and progress continues. We provide input and gather feedback to help shape the decisions that impact all aspects of our school. So if you're a member of this team, you are responsible for coming in with ideas that your team has. I can't meet with every single teacher to go through every single idea, but these individuals are responsible for being the spokesperson for their team. We develop, distribute, and analyze survey data. So we work on both the survey that I provide for the administrator. We work on the surveys the teachers provide at conference time during third quarter, and then our building survey that we provide to all families. And then also, they measure the impact of school-wide decisions and determine the impact on student learning and family involvement. So this team, we actually looked at how did the schedule change impact our students, how are some of the big overarching things that we're working on, how do they impact our school, and do they make it a better place for students and bring families in. And finally, they monitor the progress of each of our PLC teams, and we communicate it with one another. So during our building faculty meetings, you will hear each facilitator stand up and talk about the progress and the work they're doing. So how do we measure progress at Mark Twain? If you're a member of the student assistance team, you will present at monthly faculty meetings. We also do a report put together a report at semester to look at how well we're doing around the end of first semester. And then at the end of the year, we do an overall comprehensive report so that everyone involved with students at Mark Twain Elementary can understand the data points that we have collected throughout the year. So what do we look at? We look at the number of retentions as an indicator. We look at students identified as needed in an individualized educational plan. So this is one of the things that we determined. Was a student provided, did they qualify for an IEP? We look at the students referred for counseling and mentoring. Sometimes, we forget we have an obligation to figure out ways to support students beyond their academic needs. And this team takes a lot of pride in finding ways to help some of the students that need this beyond the classroom. And then finally, they look at the number of students that are no longer on their list, the students that we have found success for and they're no longer struggling with some of the issues that they have. The positive behavior support team, they measure success through, they measure progress through the following indicators. Individual student reports on Class Dojo. I've talked about Class Dojo for many years. We still use it. I can pull up a report for an individual student. I can show parents how many times that student has had a positive, and then also areas where a student has had negatives. It's great for parent-teacher conference time to show parents that, hey, on Tuesday, your child's coming in and having a lot of problems. Can we figure it out? Maybe they have an after-school event on Tuesday and aren't getting enough sleep. Maybe the parent needs to help work with some of those things. They look at discipline referral data. That's one of the key indicators of our positive working out. Are our students doing well? Are they coming to the office and receiving discipline referrals? And then finally, additionally, data collected from the administrator survey. I can tell you as an administrator with 13 years of experience, if behaviors are not where they need to be, I'm the person they want to try to help shape that. When we all know it comes from the classroom, but that's a key indicator of areas when we feel like we need to work on positive behavior support. And then finally, attendance percentages for individuals and school-wide. We realize that's part of our overarching goals as a district. This is where students receive support for the number of days. As an example, on Monday, one of our second grade boys is going to be picked up at his house by the fire truck because he had perfect attendance and he was selected as the fired up for attendance award winner. And you can't even imagine how excited he is that the fire truck is coming to his house. Yesterday, you would have thought Monty Hall was in the building when I announced it in his classroom. He doesn't know who Monty Hall is, but I do. So, sorry, showing my age there. Yeah, I'm going way back today. Way back. The response to intervention team, how do we measure progress? We look at growth in English language arts and also mathematics. So this team will look over the data they've collected throughout the year, the assessments that they've provided for students, and determine have students shown growth. This is a great place for teachers to talk with one another and say, hey, my students didn't do as well on this assessment, but I showed growth at the end. Here's what I did to help my students through this specific strategy. It's also a great place for teachers to go, how did you do it whenever you help students? They look for trends in our metadata. The assessment data from universal screening tools that we use is also an indicator. And then student reading level growth. At the end of the year, they will present the information to the faculty and staff to look at how our students are doing with regard to reading when they talk about reading level growth. And how do we measure progress with our building leadership team? I can tell you that my administrator survey is a key component that I use. I present that in the spring. I collect the data. I share the data with both you, the board, and also every single sheet is put into a PDF, and I share it with the faculty and staff of Mark Twain Elementary, and we reflect about the things that the teachers believe are a component that I need to work on. It's very valuable information. It gives me an opportunity to figure out ways that I can become a better administrator and better support the needs of our teachers. So it's a reflective piece for me, and everyone receives the same report that I send to you here as a board. We also have a building survey that we send out. The building leadership team, we put the building survey together. We talk about what are important things to ask families. What should we find out? What do we want to determine? What are some key areas that we want to figure out that our teachers or that our families feel we need to do to make our school a better place? And then finally, a teacher survey data collected from third quarter conferences. One of the things we did last year was we talked about how if we collect data that says, does your child receive enough help when he or she is struggling? And we send that in a survey to every single family. We don't always know where it comes from. This gives us an idea as an individual teacher. If I give a survey as a teacher and a parent in my class indicate they don't feel like their child's receiving enough support, it gives the individual teachers an opportunity to adjust. So we talked about that in this team last year. So last year when parents came to third quarter conferences, each teacher presented a survey to their individual families, and this gave them an opportunity to sit down with me and say, here's what families said about the way that things have gone so far as of third quarter last year, and this is what I'm going to do to adjust how I work as a teacher in my classroom to meet the needs of my students. So it's a great opportunity to have conversations with individuals in a non-evaluative way, so that when you're sitting in this group, you can say, how did you figure out ways to help families above and beyond what I did in my classroom? So these are the components of our school that we use to measure growth, look for ways that we can improve, and to develop strategies to continue to make Mark Twain a great place for our school, for our students, and for the community. And then finally, I talked about heroes. This is a great picture of one of our sweet little girls. Every week we have a special superhero of the week. Our specialist teachers celebrate good behavior in our specialist classes, whether you're in art, music, PE, or library, or a counselor. And the recipient of this every week gets to wear this. Some of them like it. This little girl, I took a picture of it. I happened to know Dad, and I sent the picture. And he said, yep, that's my daughter. She is a superhero. So it was great to celebrate the good work that she does. And we try to do this throughout the year to celebrate the positive behaviors we see in our students. So I want to thank you for allowing me time to present. I hope that you could hear me this evening. And I'm here to answer any questions that you might have for me.
I'll start.
Yes, ma'am.
Just a quick question. You talked about your teams. How are teachers selected to be on those teams?
So initially, when I first started at Mark Twain, I put up a list of the different teams and I let people sign up. Through the years, we've changed that process multiple times. Ultimately, I want equal representation from every grade level. Sometimes when I put the sign-up sheet there, I don't get it, and I will go back and I'll ask someone to be on a team. I'll say, I need your help on this team because I need your representation from this grade level. So some of it is self-selected, but sometimes it's me determining where the strengths are of a teacher and bringing them into a team that really needs their help. So yes, thank you for asking.
And I think it's great that everybody's involved.
Yeah, I like that too.
I like that too.
All
Teachers are involved.
Thank you. It's an important part of what we do.
How do you choose the team leaders?
The team leaders, I ask for volunteers. That's the facilitator for each team. I send out an email at the end of the year and say, our teams will be XYZ for next year. They haven't changed. And I'll say, if you are interested in being a facilitator, please let me know. There's been a rotation over the years. It's interesting to see the change in who wants to lead. Sometimes it's a veteran teacher, and then sometimes it's someone in their first 5 years of their career who's wanting to get experience. So it's been good to see that diversity in leadership, and it's very good for me to be able to sit down with that individual and say, how's it going with your team? Have that discussion with them, see what their thoughts are. Some of the facilitators are aspiring leaders, so it's a great opportunity to get a chance to be a leader of a group. Thanks for asking.
Great. Sounds like good things are going on.
I hope so.
Well, one of the things I really like to do, Matt, on a regular basis is he's got a Google Doc that's ongoing on Fridays, and he's included me in that, so I get to see it. It's messages from teachers, and it's pictures, the highlights of the week, and It's not just like, building announcements. It's encouraging notes, and I really love being a part of that and getting to see that every week.
Thank you. We do a lot of social media. I personally do, I run a Instagram page, a Facebook page, and a Twitter page for Mark Twain. I like to take pictures. So Gina does a great job. Gina Zervos does a great job of supporting us. I have a drive that I can share photos with her, and oftentimes I'll see them pop up on the website. But yes, we do share a lot of photos because it's hard to capture every moment in a school, but I think it's important, and our families need to see that. So you can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook, and you can see a lot of the good things that are going on in our building. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I appreciate the board.